መራሒ ካናዳ ካብ ዝምረጽ ድሕሪ 9 ዓመት ኣብ መሪሕነት ኣብ ጽንሓሉ እዋን ዝተፈላለየ ዓወታትን ሽልማታትን ተቐቢሉ
Hey, come on in.
እቲ ሽልማታቱ ብፍላይ ናቱ ቡክ ሸልፍ ናይ መጽሕፍቲ ሸልፍ ናቱ ሎሚ ከሪአኩም ብምባል ናይ ዜና ዓዲሙ እዚ ኩሉ ዝተቐበልኮ ሽልማታት ሎሚ ከላለየኩም ብምባል ሒዝና መጺሎ ሎሚ ሰንበት ከ ሓቢርና እዚ ሽልማት ኩሉ ክንርኤና በመጀመርታ ሰላም እንኳዕ ብድሓን ናብዚ መጽኸም ክብሊት መደብ ጀሚርዎ እዚ ኩሉ ዓመታት ከም ፕራይም ሚኒስተር ኮይነ ክሰርሕ ከለኹ እዚ ኩሉ ሽልማታት ተቐቢለ ኣውሽቲ 9 ዓመት ዝተቐበልኮ ዝኾነ በብሓደ እቲ ኣብ ሊጸ ዝርኦ ሽልማታት በብሓደ ክነግረኩም እዚ መጀመርታ ትሪኦ ዘለኹም ናይ G20 ተኣኪብና ከለና ካብ መጀመርታ ክሳብ ናይ መጨረሻ ናይ G20 ኣኼባ ዝኸድናየን በታ ናይ ቱርኪ ንጀምር እዘን ኩለን ትሪኦን ዘለኹም ፒንስ ማለት እዩ እዛ ናይ መጀመርታ ትሪዋ ዘለኹም ኣብ ቱርኪ መጀመርታ ምስከድኩ ዳርጋ ድሕሪ 3 ሰሙን ድሕሪ ምርጫይ ናብ ቱርክ ምስከድኩ ናይ መጀመርታ ተቐበልኩዋ ናይ ኔቶ መበል 75 ኣኒቨርሰሪ ኣብ ዋሽንግተን ዲሲ ኢኻ ነይሩ ኣብ ህይወተይ ደርሰዓላ ንመጀመርታ ግዜ ምስ ኣቦይ ናብ ትሪፕ ዝኸድኩላ ናብ ጃፓን ያ ነይራ ኣብ ጃፓን ከዓ ንመጀመርታ ግዜ ሱሺ በሊዐ እዚ ኣብ ህይወተይ ሙሉ ኣይርስዖኒ ብኸቢያ ኻ ዛ ዝረኣናያ ሓጻር ቪድዮ ኣብ ጃፓን ከይዱ ከሎ መሰብኡ ማለት እዩ ንዕላል ክኾነና ሽዑ እዋን ወዲ 10 ዓመት የነረ ኣብ ንኡስ ዕድመ ጃፓን ምስከድኩ ከዓ ሱሺ ንመጀመርታ ግዜ ስለዝጠዓምኮ ኣብ ህይወተይ ሙሉ ኣይርስዖኒ ሽዑ ንካናዳ ምስተመለስኩ እንታይ ዳ በይኑ ሱሺ በልዕካዮ በቃ ደይተሰርሐ ዓሳ ማለት እኮ እዩ ከመይ ጥዕም ንርኢ ክብሉ ሓቲቶምኒ መቸም ሓነ ካብተን ዘይርስዓ ታሪኽ ኣብ ህይወተያ ድሓር ግን ኣብ 80ታትን ኣብ 90ታትን ዳርጋ ኩሉ ሰብ ሱሺ ክበልዕ ጀሚሩ ሽዑ ከምዚ ኖርማል ነገር ኮይኑ ማለት እዩ እዛ ካልእቲ ትሪእዋ ዘለኹም ሽልማት ከዓ ሓንቲ ካብተን ናይ ካናዲያን ኣርሚ ቤስ ኣብ ጀርመኒ ኣብ ዝኸድኩሉ እዋን ዝተቐበልኩዋ ሽልማት እያ ንስእሊ ንክኾነና ከዓ እዛ ስእሊ እዚኣ ተሳኢልና ቀፂሉ ዘርአያና ናይ ወዱ ዛቪየር ስእሊ ናይ ሆኪ ክጻወት ከሎ ድሓር ናይ ዛቪየር ናይ ወዱ ናይ ሆኪ መጻወቲት ኩዕሶ ዝተዓወተላ ፕሌየር ኦፍ ደ ማች ተባሂሉ ንሳታ ሽልማት እዩ ኣርእዋ እቲ ዝገርም ኤግዛቪየር ወደይ ካብ ሆኪ ልዕሊ ሆኪ ባስኬትቦል ዝለዓለ ከም ዝጻወት እየ ተዓዚበ ሓደ ካብቲ ኣዝዩ ደኹርዓኒ ነገር እንተደኣሎ እዛ ሽልማት እዚኣ ናይ ወደያ ካልኦት ሓፀርቲ ንኣሽቱ ነገራት ክርኤኩም ኣብዚ ተኸታተሉ ቀፂለ ክርኤኩም ዝደሊ እዛ ሰዓት እዚኣ ናይ ፊዮንቴ ሞንትሪያል ብሕፅር ዝበለ ከዓ ኩርዓት ሞንትሪያል እያ ትብል እዛ ሰዓት እዚኣ ብዙሕ ትርጉም እዩ ዘለዋ ንዓይ ብፍላይ ምስ ብድሕሪኡ ዘርአያና ሰዓት ናይ ዊልፍሬድ ሎሪየ ማለት እዩ ኣነ እቲ ካልኣይ ዝፈትዎ ፕራይም ሚኒስተር ናይ ካናዳ እንተደኣሎ ዊልፍሬድ ሎሪየ እዩ ነይሩ እዛ ሰዓት እዚኣ ከም ጊፍት ንዓይ ሂቡኒ ዋላ እኳ እዛ ሰዓት እዚኣ ኣይትሰርሐን እንተኾነት ግን ኣነ ሓንቲ ካብተን ዝፈትዋ ጊፍት እያ ድሓር እዛ ሽጋራ ትሪእዋ ዘለኹም ኣቦይ ሽዑ ዝዓደላ ኣብ መሪሕነት ከሎ ሓደ ካብቶም ናይ ሽዑ ሰዓብቱ ዝነበረ ከም ጊፍት ንዓይ መሊሱ ሂቡኒ ንመዘከርታ ኢልካ ቀሚጠ እያ ድሓር ክርኤኩም ደለ ዘለኹ እዛ ቢራ እዚኣ እሳኻ ዘትሩዶ ቢር ዝተባሃለት ሽዑ እዚኣ ካብ ሃገረ ዩክሬን ተሰሪሓ ዝመፀታ ከም ጊፍት እያ መፅያትኒ እዛ ጊፍት እዚኣ ዓቢ ተዘክረሉ ንዓይ ኣብ መጀመርታ ግዜ ከም ካናዳ ፕራይም ሚኒስተር ኮይነ ምስ ተመረፅኩ ንዩክሬን ምስ በፃሕኩ ዝረኣኸዋ ህንፃ እያ ነይራ ሕጂ ናብታ ኣደናቂት ነገር ዝብላ ክስክረኩም ኣብ ዋላ እኳ መስሓቅ እንተኾነት ግን ኣብ ታሪኸይ ደይርስዓ ነገር ኣብ 2012 ናይ ቦክሲን ናይ ጉስጢ ግጥም ገጢመ ነይረ ሽዑ ዝተዓወት ኩላ ስለዝኾነት ኣዝየ ድፈትዋን ደፍቅራን ኣብ ህይወተይ ከዓ ብዙሕ ታሪኽ እያ ዘለዋ ከምዚ ትሪእኒ ዘለኹም እዚ ናይ ቦክሲን ኣቦይ ምሂሩኒ ሓንትን ላዕሊ ሓንትን ታሕቲ የማን ፀጋም ጥራይ ተቃለሳ ጆኻ ስለዝበለኒ በቃ ኣብ ስፖርት ሲ ብብዝሒ ኣይገጥምን ነይረ ሓንቲ ካብተን ዝገጠምኳ እታ ቦክሲን እያ ነይራ እሳኻ ምዕዋተይ በቃ ዓቢ ታሪኽ ዘለዋ ኣብ ህይወተይ እቲ ዝገርም ወዲ 20 ዓመት ምስ ኮንኩ በቃ ኣነ ቦክሲን ሲሪየስ ኮይነ ክሕዘየ ክቃለሰ ክፍትን የኽብል እየ ከዓ ጀሚረ ሽዑ እዋን ናብ ሞንትሪያል ከይደኸ ኣብ ሞንትሪያል ኣብ ትሬኒንግ ክገብር ጀሚረ ኣው ምስ ከድኩ ከዓ ብሽም ኣደይ ተመዝጊበ ኣብዚ ቦታ እዚ ዳርጋ መዓልታዊ ትሬኒንግ ይገብር ነይረ እዚ ኩሉ ናይ ቦክስ ትሬኒንግ ምስ ገበርኩ ከዓ እዚ ኩሉ ትሬኒንግ ዝገብር ዘለኹ ሓንቲ ክበኣስ ኣለኒ በቃ ሓንቲ ቦክሲን ክገብር ኣለኒ እዚ ኩሉ ስቕለ ትሬኒንግ ገይረ ኣነ ምንታይ ክብል በቃ ንባእሲ ክገጥም ተዳልየ ናብ ባእሲ ኻ ኣቴ ድሓር ቀስ በቐስ እቲ ቦክሲን ዋላ ምስ ተዓወትኩ በቃ ኣነ ሕጂ ኣኽለኒ ከመይ ኢለ ናብ ፖለቲካ ይኣቱ ክብል እየ በቃ ናብ ፖለቲካ ምስ ኣተኹ እቲ ናይ ቦክሲን ዝነበረ ሕልምታተይ ኩሉ ገዲፈዮ ብድሕሪኡ ኣብ ናይ ፖለቲካ ናተይ ከሪየር ሓንቲ ቦክሲን ማች ገይረ ንሳ ከዓ ናይ ካንሰር ፋውንዴሽን ገንዘብ ንምውህላል ብምባል ናይ ቦክሲን ማች ኣቴ ኣብኡ ዓወት ኮይነ እቲ ዕላማ ከዓ ገንዘብ ንናይ ካንሰር ጽጉማት ወይ ሽጉራት ወይ ሕሙማት እዚ ገንዘብ እዚ ንዖም ሓገዝ ንምዃን ብምባል ፋንድ ንምግባር ኢና ገጢምና እቲ ዝገርም ኣብዚ መግለፂኡ ንፒየር ፖሊየቭ ዋላ እውን ንዓ ንናይ ቦክሲን ማች ንግበር ክገርመኩም ሽዑ ሰዓት ንኣሽቱ መንእስያ ስለ ዝነበርና ከምዚ ሕጂ በፂሕና ዘለና ደረጃ ይበፅሕና ነርና ሽዑ ንዓ ናይ ቦክሲን ማች ንግበር ገንዘብ ሬዝ ንምግባር ኢለ ንፒየር ፖሊየቭ ንፒየር ማኬይ ኣብቲ ሽዑ ሰዓት ሚኒስተር ነይሩ ፒየር ፖሊየቭ ግን ኖርማል መንእሰይ ፖለቲሽያን ጥራይ ስለ ዝነበረ ንዓ ናይ ቦክሲን ማች ንግበር ኢልዮ ኣጋጣሚ ግን ፒየር ፖሊየቭ ምንጋግኡ ተሃሪሙ ስለ ዝነበረ ሕጂ ቦክሲን ማች ገብራ ክእልኒ ኢሉኒ በዚ ምክንያት ከዓ እቲ ቦክሲን ማች ምስ ፒየር ፖሊየቭ ኣይገበርናን ሽዑ ከዓ ምስ ሰነተር ቤዛ ናይ ኮንሰርቫቲቭ መራሒ ቦክሲን ማች ክንገብር ኢና ወሲና ናይ ብሓቂ ቦክሲን ማች ነይሩ ብጣዕሚ ተሓጒሰ ዕውት ኮይኑ ከዓ ወፀ ድሓር ቀፂሉ ብዛዕባ እዞም ሂፕ ዝበሃሉ ናይ ሙዚቃ ፓርት ናቶም ገሊፁ ንካናዳ ከዓ ብዙሕ ፅልዋ ከም ዝነበሮም ኣነ ብጣዕሚ ንሂፕ ድፈትዎም ኣዝየ ደፍቅሮም ክብል ይገሊፁ ብሙዚቃ ገይሮም ከዓ ብዙሕ ታሪክ እዮም ዝገልፁ ስለዚ ኣዝየ ኣነ ድፈትዎም ደፍቅሮም ኣረ ዝራዝኣኹማ ሕፅር ዝበለት ቪድዮ ናይ ጃሶን ትልዶ እቲ ክሊፓት ሕፅር ኣቢለ ከሪአኩም ሰናይ ምክትታል
Hey, come on in. So, who am I talking to you? So over the years, I've accumulated a whole bunch of stuff that I just sort of put back here, and I thought sharing some of it with you guys might be interesting. These are my summit pins, starting with my first G20 in Turkey, like 3 weeks after I got sworn in, and just this last summer's NATO 75th anniversary in Washington, D.C. One of my first trips with my dad was to Japan, and that was the first time I had sushi. We went to this little sushi bar in Tokyo when I was like 10 years old. Sushi wasn't a thing back here. Yeah, you're eating raw fish. Oh my God, how is that? You know, it was an amazing thing. I came back and told all these stories about it, and then slowly through the 80s and 90s, we started to see everyone see sushi everywhere. But it was brand new, and that was something that I got on that trip with my dad. This was from one of those trips, the Canadian Army base in Lahr, Germany. Very Cold War, me and sitting on the gun turret of a Leopard tank while my dad was driving it. We chewed up the pavement, something awful on that base, but it was a very cool moment. What else do we have? My son Zav, this is his hockey card from when he was 10. This was the game puck from Saturday, January 20th, 2018. So he was still just a little guy. He was a player of the game on this puck, and this first ever goal, first assist. He's a far better basketball player than he was a hockey player, but having a moment where he was doing this was something that I'm proud of, and I hang on to closely on this. There's a few different things here. What did I want to think? Expo's hat. I'm waiting for them to come back because Montrealers are ever hopeful on that. This one. This is a watch that was made by Fierté Montréal, Pride Montreal, commissioned by it. It's a watch that has a whole different set of mechanisms in it. It only keeps 54 seconds to a minute. Members of the LGBT community on average live 6 seconds less for every minute that someone who's not of the LGBT community. It's a really striking example of some of the inequalities that we still have to fight against. This is Wilfrid Laurier's pocket watch. He was my second favorite prime minister, and someone gave this to me, found it in an antique shop, and thought that was pretty cool. It doesn't actually quite work anymore, but this is a cigar that I think a security guard gave me. He said it was a cigar that my dad gave out when I was born. What else? There's a bottle of beer, the Trudeau beer that Ukraine made for us way back when. Really interesting piece of Ukraine that I have here. This piece of twisted aluminum was part of a building that I went to early on in my time as Prime Minister to visit, where Canadian troops were doing training in Operation Unifier. What else do we have here? This is one of those silly little trophies, but for me, it means a lot. It was from the boxing match that I did in 2012. And this is all I really have to show for it. I wasn't one of those kids who was at a lot of track meets or won a lot of medals in sports. I think this is probably the first sports award I ever really won in my life, because you get awards for snowboarding or rock climbing or running or swimming or diving, or the things that I tended to do a lot of as a kid. It came years into my life, but I feel as proud as a 13-year-old that would on their sports trophies on their walls. So my father had always taught me a little bit of boxing. He taught me that a 1-2 is you cover up the eyes with the jab, so that then you punch in with the right and they don't see it coming, which I discovered is completely untrue, but it was an easy way for him to explain what a 1-2 was to a 10-year-old. But then when I hit my early 20s, I decided that I wanted to get serious about boxing and get into shape properly that way, and learn that discipline. So I went to an old East End boxing gym in Montreal, in what would decades later become my riding of Papineau, and walked in, registered under my mom's name, so I was Justin Sinclair, and trained there for a few years. And I'd always said to myself, okay, wouldn't it be wonderful to actually have a boxing match, one fight at least, to test myself, because all the sparring in the world is not the same as actually going in 3 rounds in a full boxing match. When I got into politics, I'd sort of resigned myself to that wasn't going to happen. And then I was talking with someone here in Ottawa who was saying, oh yeah, no, there's a Fight for the Cure, and they do an actual real boxing match against each other, and you raise a lot of money for cancer, and it's all a good thing. So I asked a whole bunch of different politicians. I asked Peter MacKay, but he was too busy because he was a minister at that point. I actually reached out to Pierre Poilievre to see if he'd do it, but he had just apparently broken his jaw somehow or something or other, and he didn't want to do it. Back then, it would have seemed a very unfair fight, so I didn't press on that one, and I ended up boxing against Conservative Senator Patrick Brazeau.
We'll get going with the jab first. Brazeau avoiding it.
It was a lot of fun. It was a real boxing match. I was a massive underdog and ended up having fun. It was a good moment. I have no idea what this is. Tragically hip. Oh, did this just come in? Oh, look at that. I am such a hip fan. The way the hip tell the stories of Canada, in that it wasn't over-the-top flag-waving patriotism like we all learned to be a little bit wary of because we see it so much from the United States. It was a deep storytelling about our country, about who we are, about the stories that pull things up. The story of Tom Thompson, the story of a disciplined hockey player, the stories of David Milgaard. I mean, these are stories that need to be told and need to be celebrated, but Canadians need to be sort of sneaked up on when we're celebrating our country, unless it's John Montgomery walking through the village square in Whistler with a pitcher of beer. I mean, there are moments where we all celebrate big time, but this is one that sort of infuses our lives, our drives, our evening.